I'm going to move up just a bit. And how are you? My name is Mike Huggins, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties in getting started here. But such is the world we're living in right now, and we'll make the best of this. So today's practice is one where it's accessible from seated, and I'll cue some of the seated poses. And in addition to that, I'm really going to focus on the seated and standing postures. And one thing I wanted to just mention to you, so Transformation Yoga Project, if you don't know about us, we're a service organization working with people dealing with pretty significant forms of trauma. And we've had so many requests from people to have a practice they could take home with them in a really accessible way. So we ended up writing this book called Yoga for Recovery, A Practical Guide to Healing, which takes a trauma-informed approach to our yoga practice. And so if you haven't seen this, it's actually a wonderful guide. It's not written for teachers. It's written for students who are curious, who are starting to practice, who may be dealing with some significant challenges in their lives. So I just offer that out as in this time when we're all trying to figure out how do we maintain some type of normality and when things are not normal. Okay, that's it. So the practice this morning is going to follow one of the sequences that's laid out in that Yoga for Recovery book. The first thing we want to do is to do a check-in. And for me, I really need a check-in after just a bumpy start here. So I'm going to come, if you can still see me, I'm going to come onto the mat. You can do a check-in standing up. So, and we'll make all the various options available here. So I'm coming to a comfortable seated position, and you may notice that I went onto a block. I love using blocks. Particularly, I find with men, we have challenges with our hips. They don't seem to open as much as women in general. And this is a nice way for us to kind of lengthen our spine. Take a few breaths in, just to center ourselves. You might notice any sensations. They might be physical sensations like aches or creaks in the neck, particularly being in our houses most of the time. Or there might be something more deeper than that. In my case, I'm feeling like this stress in my chest area. When I feel like there's confusion or chaos around me, I tend to get it in my chest. So I'm going to send my breath awareness into my chest area. So at the beginning of the practice, I mentioned or asked, how are you? And I would say it wasn't a rhetorical question. And please continue breathing in and out through the nose to the extent you can. And I really mean, how are you doing? You know, obviously you can't answer that here to me, but you can go inward and maybe just give yourself like, it's okay. Or, I'm really struggling right now. Or, in spite of everything, I'm feeling okay. It's really a good reminder to check in where we are at this moment. It can help guide us for where we want to take our practice. It can guide us for if we want to explore new things, go deeper, or back off our poses. So, think about a check-in. It doesn't have to be long, just how do you feel? And you might be checking in physically, mentally, or for many of us, we want to check in spiritually. So if you're just joining, this practice can be done in a chair. Obviously, I'm sitting, and if you have a block, that's awesome. If you have a mat, that's awesome, but not needed. Let's take a few more breaths here. Noticing the flow of the air, subtle body movements as you bring air into your lungs. And then exhaling through your nose, the body returns, maybe a little more energetic. Breathing in, Breathing out. Inhaling. Exhaling. And one more breath in and out. So I'm on this block. I'm going to move the block out for a moment. My left leg's going to come forward. I'm going to bend my right knee in. And I'm really going to feel like I'm pushing through my heel, my extended leg here. At the same time, I'm consciously straightening my spine as best you can. And I'm hugging this bent knee, my right knee in this case. From here, we'll just move to a nice little twist here. So I keep my left arm on my right knee. My right hand's going to come behind. Maybe use it as leverage to pull myself up. Breathing in, extension. Exhale, a slight twist. One of my favorite teachers always talked about these lower spinal twists as a good old friend. And I've always taken to that because virtually every practice that I do for myself personally, I do these spinal twists. I just love them. Let's come back to center. Inhale, shoulders come up, and exhale, release down. And we'll switch it right out. My right leg goes long. I'm pushing through that heel, and the knee might straighten or may not all the way. And I bend in the left knee. Inhale, lengthening my spine. Exhale, hugging my knee, pushing back with my back hand. One more breath here. Let's come back to center, squeezing both knees in. From here, I'm going to come to child's pose, and if you can still see me here, I'll move up just a little bit, or back just a bit so you can see. There's many variations of child's pose, and if you are in a chair, you can still do this. Regular traditional child's pose, knees go out wide, big toes touch, and push through your palms and kind of sink your hips back towards your heels. They won't go there, but just the idea of movement there. Forearms can come down on your floor. I love having this block here because my forehead isn't going to be touching the mat today. And I don't want to put any strain on my neck, so this block is an awesome way to support my spine and allow me to come into my breathing and let my body relax or even sink deeper into the floor or the mat. Beautiful breathing in and out through the nose, observing shifts in the body with each and every breath. Breathing in, noticing my spine starts to lengthen, my shoulder blades open just a bit. Exhale, body returns. Do a few more on your own. Don't worry about the pace. Go at your own pace. Two more here. And very slowly we're going to start to come up. We're going to come up to all fours, and you can do this on your chair. We'll move to a few cat-cows, so you can easily do that on chair. I'll show you that in a moment. But for those who are on the floor, inhaling, lift up your spine, tailbone goes back. Exhale, round your spine. Inhale, lift, lead with your chest, neck will follow. Exhale, round your spine. Let's do about 4 of those to show you what's happening here for your chair. Very simple. Inhale, extending that spine. Exhale, rounding. Breath in. Exhale, back. So from here, go around your floor, we can come to all fours. Right arm's going to lengthen. You can do this on your chair. Maybe the right arm comes forward, and the left leg's going to extend. Pressing through my back heel so I feel a nice stretch of my toes. A little bit of stretch in my leg. And if you like, you can think about lifting that back leg. That's totally optional, but it's done on purpose if you're doing that. And then we're going to lengthen both sides if that feels right for you. All these poses, of course, are optional. You know better than me than what's happening with your body, what's going on in your life. Take these for what they are. They're suggestions. One more breath in. Exhale, release it down. Kind of recenter myself. Palms under shoulders, knees under hips. My right leg goes back, flexing my toes. Start with my foot on the floor. Left arm goes long. Consciously finding some length here. Opening up some space. Welcome to stay right here. And if you're in your chair, you can lengthen your leg. Option to lift that back leg up, noticing a little challenge to your balance. Challenge to your breathing, but we're going to come right back to that breathing, in and out through the nose. One more breath in. Exhale to release down. Tuck the toes, and I'm just going to push up into this inverted V. Some people might call it a down dog, which is fine. We're not going to stay here long. I'm simply going to start to walk to the top of my mat. I'll turn to face you so you can see what's going on here. And if you're in the chair, you can do the same thing. A nice forward fold. Don't worry if your fingers don't touch the mat or the floor. Check in if your eyes are open or closed. And you're welcome to grab your opposite elbows. Before we start swaying, consciously feel the weight of your torso start to lengthen your body as you come forward here. And if you like to sway, you can sway. And release your hands down. Inhale, hands onto the shins, squeezing your shoulder blades together. So the idea here is simply to try to create some some length in our spine. Sometimes we say a flat back, but it's really not a flat back. It's a lengthening of the spine. Conscious breathing here. Just one more breath in. And exhale, I fold forward, and then very slowly as I tuck my chin around my spine, I start to make my way all the way up high. Arms come up high. So I'm a little bit restrained here because of the height of the ceiling here, but you get the idea. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale, release. One more breath in. And my right arm's going to come down by my side. Inhale, I lift that left arm up, and if you'd like, you can bring it up and over, stretching out the ribs. Of course, this can be done in your chair. Notice where your gaze is. Again, no right or wrong, just noticing. Maybe you think about a slight turn towards your armpit area, just to take any strain out of that cervical spine. And next breath in, we come all the way up high. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, that left arm, in my case, down. The right arm reaches, and then it perhaps goes across. One more breath in. Inhale all the way up high, and exhale, thumb knuckles come to your sternum, chest area. Perhaps we do another check-in after we've had a chance to do a little bit of movement combined with our breathing. So from here, we'll move to a few modified sun salutation A's. So once again, you can do this in your chair or certainly in a standing position. Inhaling, reaching your arms up, creating some length here. Exhale, forward fold. Hands may or may not touch the floor, particularly if you're in a chair. Inhale, hands onto your shin, squeezing the shoulder blades together, noticing any lengthening you're getting. Breath in, exhale, fold. Breath in will reach all the way up. Full breath in. Inhale, lengthening once more. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands onto the shins or somewhere around there. Exhaling, fold. Breath in, rounding that spine all the way up high. Full breath in. Consciously lengthening here. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to a flat or lifted spine. Any areas that are aching or maybe feeling some stress or tension, it's not going to magically go away, but we can center our awareness there and be aware as we move through the practice to be charitable or non-judgmental to those areas. So we'll move on from here. Breath in, arms over our heads. Inhaling, lengthening. Exhale, softening knees into chair pose. And I'm going to do this on the chair, so it's appropriate, right? So in a seated position, maybe come towards the front of your chair. Inhale, your spine lengthens, and you can start to maybe lean forward without rounding the spine. Now, if you want to add a little more, you can shift the weight to your front toes and you can actually lift off your chair here, but that's totally optional. Breathing in and breathing out, starting to feel some heat in those thighs, starting to feel the mind starting to wander. We'll only be here for one more breath. Inhaling, exhaling, hands to heart center, forward fold. Let's hang down here for a couple breaths or so. These forward folds are very restorative, so come here anywhere you'd like, particularly in a chair, or if you feel like you want to go to a child's pose, by all means. Next breath, we'll move to that halfway lift. Exhaling, forward fold, tucking the chin slowly, rounding up all the way up high. Inhale, exhale, breath in, reaching up high. Exhale, hands to heart center, full breath in. Back to mountain pose. So we're going to move on from here to eagle pose. So we can go to traditional eagle or any modifications. This can also be done in a chair. I'll show you that in a moment. So, traditional eagle. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, soften your knees. Right arm comes forward, almost right out in front. The left arm wraps underneath. Oh, I had that backwards, sorry. The left arm comes forward, the right arm wraps underneath. Some of us put our palms together like this, almost like a prayer. I'm not going to do that because my shoulder is kind of screaming today. And stay right here. Particularly if you're in a chair, this is an awesome pose. If you'd like now to lift up that right leg, perhaps reach it over. Those toes can start down on the floor. Kind of decide where you're at this morning. Squeezing your thighs together. And if you choose, you can lift up that toe off the mat. If you're in a chair, you actually can do the same thing. You can lift off that toe, and your right leg just has to be slightly crossed. It doesn't have to be over your knee like we're doing right here. Just a few more moments as we go back to focus on the breathing. And very slowly we'll unwind, start with the arms and maybe the legs follow. Inhaling, exhaling. Hands come to heart center. Inhale, up. In this case, the right arm comes forward. My left arm's going to wrap underneath. Prayer, I'm just going to hug my shoulders. Soften my knees as the left leg comes up and over, and then transition any way you'd like. So from a chair, it's very similar. I'm at the edge of my chair, same, arms come around, I just hug my shoulders, and my legs, I just cross it over. If you feel like doing this, that's fine too, but there's no need to do this. And if you're in your chair and you say, well, I think I like something a little bit more physical, fine. Just take your left elbow and start to come forward towards your right knee. Don't force it, please. Please just go where the body wants to go and then come back into your breathing. Slowly, let's come back up. And slowly unwind your arms and your legs. Breath in. Full release out. From here, let's move into another balancing pose. In this case, I'm going to use the chair as a little bit of a balancing. Welcome to stay in your chair to do this. So we'll move into a variation of tree pose. So I'm shifting the weight to my outer leg as I soften, in this case, my right knee. It's inside the chair. Inhale, I lift up. Very slowly, I start to push through my heel. That leg lengthens. Don't worry if you can't straighten the leg. That's not what it's about, but you can start to feel a stretch in your hamstring. Consciously, we're going to think about lifting that right leg, but you don't have to do that. And we do that while we try to maintain a long spine, not leaning back, just sort of standing tall, feeling that hip start to open just a bit. And then very slowly, that right knee bends, and we can move back into chair pose. We can keep one hand on that chair for balance. We'll stay here for a few breaths. Of course, if you're in your chair, it's the exact same thing. You can maintain both feet onto the floor. You can explore shifting the weight to that left leg and just hovering that right leg. Just that subtle movement adds a great deal of difficulty to the pose, so don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't even lift my foot. That's not what it's about, okay? It's a matter of just exploring different things, seeing where the body can go, what makes sense for you right now. Inhale, slowly rise up, and then you can start to lower that right leg onto the floor if you're standing. So we'll switch sides. In this case, I'll move the chair to the opposite side. Once again, I'm going to shift the weight to my outside leg, softening in this case, my left leg. Going to push forward here, knowing that that left leg is a bit tighter than my right leg. It's okay. It's been like that for most of my life. One more breath in. Exhale, start to shift back into airplane here. If you're feeling a bit wobbly, perhaps send your awareness to a point maybe 6 feet in front of you. Connect back with your breathing. Just subtle things to bring your mind back. And slowly, let's come all the way back up and release your leg, release your arms, and fully releasing your breath in. So we've heard the term, what we resist persists. That's very true in our yoga practice. So that's why it's helpful to take a deep breath and a full release, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. We move on from there with no judgment. So we'll do another pose here. I'm going to move again. This side, I'm going to, in this case, shift the weight to my inner leg. And we'll move right into tree pose here. So you can move here, anywhere except your knee joint. I'm going to also cue that on the chair. So start with your breathing. You can move and add any hand variation. So if you're seated, same thing, move to the edge of your chair and simply turn. In this case, my left leg is going to go towards my right. Hands come to heart center. And if you happen to have a block nearby, it's wonderful. You can place a block and move your leg inside here. Option to add some branches to your tree. Come back to either standing or seated mountain pose. So we'll add a little bit of more. We'll add a little bit of mindful movement at this point. I hope you're feeling like you're connected with your breathing. If not, maybe you need to back off just a bit. Once again, I'm going to shift the weight, in this case, to my left leg. I'm going to soften my right knee. And you can do this on the chair, breathing in. Simple bending of that right knee seems simple. But as we know, any type of balance is a challenge when the mind starts to wander. On my next exhale, I'm going to step my leg back into a warrior two position. So breathing in and breathing out, stepping back into warrior two. So adjust as you need to. The back foot is about 45 degrees or so. I'm going to stay grounded here. I'll move back so you can see a bit here. We'll stay here for a few moments here, noticing anything happening with our shoulders. If there's tension there, maybe we can lengthen them a little longer or drop them just an inch and take that pressure off. Notice if we're straining any areas, maybe we're feeling like I've got to go deeper, we're reaching too far forward. We can feel those toes of the back starting to come off, or the heel. See if we can find balance in this pose. Start to add a little bit of movement. We're going to follow, at least I'm going to start with my breath and my body will follow. Breathing in, I straighten my front leg, arms come over the head. Exhale, coming back to warrior two, loosening up our joints here. Breathing in, arms up, front leg straightens. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Full breath in, full breath out. Let's stay right here. Anytime you're feeling too much, just drop your shoulders. Oh, that's awesome. And you can stay here or come back when you feel right. You can do the same thing while seated. Flipping the front palm will revolve the warrior. So we'll stay there for a few breaths. For those who are in a chair, we can simply move to that warrior position. This hip is here, reaching out, revolving that warrior. Sort of the yin and yang, so that top arm is really strong. I'm reaching up, feeling a nice stretch of lengthening of my chest. My lower arm is nice and soft. One more breath. Coming back to that warrior two, and we'll go to an extended side angle. So that in this case, my front arm, my left arm is going to come onto my knee, and my top arm up, and I bring it forward. So you can do this standing or you can do this seated. Option, if you like, the top arm can come up, and you can start to drape it behind your back. Breathing as before, inhale, lengthening, creating space. Exhale, maybe softening and able to twist just a bit without forcing it. Maybe your neck follows the movement of your upper shoulder here, the one that's open the chest area. One more breath here. And then reach that arm over our head. So if you're standing, we're going to move that back heel, if you can see that here, off the mat. So we're going to then start to come into this crescent lunge. You can do that in a chair. And from here, it's that crescent lunge. So my back heel is off the mat, maybe an inch or two. Breathing, continuing that pattern of inhale, lengthening, exhale, relaxing or softening. From here, in this case, my left knee is bent. My opposite arm, my right arm, is going to come forward for a twist. My top arm, my left arm is going to come back. Perhaps find some stability by pushing through that back leg, pushing through your heel, kind of strengthens that leg. If that makes any sense to you. If not, ignore that. Breathing as best we can while the lungs are a little bit confined while we twist. Inhale, let's slowly come back up. Arms reach up high. Exhale, hands can come down on your hips. And if you're standing, we breathe in and we push off the back foot, come to the top of our mat. So, let's move to the same on the opposite side. In this case, I shift the weight to my right leg, lifting my left knee. Finding a point of concentration. One more breath in. And as I exhale, my left leg steps back into warrior two. Of course, adjust as you need to. If you feel like, oh, I didn't step back far enough, or I stepped back too far, please make that adjustment. There's no rule that because where you landed, you have to stay there. In about 2 more breaths, we'll start to move to that movement. Breathing in, arms up high, front leg straightens. Exhale, coming back to warrior two. Inhaling. Exhaling. Breath in. Breath out. One more breath in. Exhale to warrior two. Front palm flips. We'll revolve that warrior. You can be doing this in your chair. One breath here. Exhaling back to warrior two. Take a moment, check in before we just move forward without thinking. Breath. Exhaling to extended side angle. Any variation here, arm can be up and over. How's your breathing? No judgment, just connect with that breathing. Arm back up, and if you choose to kind of open up your chest area here, my left shoulder is still a bit of a problem, so I'm not opening up as much as I did on the right side, and I'm actually fine with that. My shoulder is thanking me. Breathing through any discomfort and making a decision if that's too much to move out of the pose. Last breath in and out. Inhaling, top arm comes up. Back heel is going to spin, so we come to this classic crescent lunge. Adjust if you're wobbly. You can kind of heel toe your feet a little wider. In this case, my right knee is bent, so my left arm starts to come forward, the opposite one, and my right arm comes back. Starting to feel a little burning in my right thigh here. I know it's discomfort, it's not pain. One more breath in here. Exhaling, inhaling, reaching up high over our heads. Exhale, hands by your side, breathing in. Exhale, come to the top of the mat, come to a seated position. Whew. Come back to that mountain pose, standing or seated, eyes open or closed. I always find deeper into the practice, it's wonderful to check back in. It could be simply thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs neutral, or just the quality of our breathing. Just because we're breathing heavy or faster doesn't mean that's wrong. We're aware of the breathing, and to the extent we can, we try to be consistent with the breaths in and the breaths out. We'll start to transition to a few poses on our floor or the mat or our chair. Inhale, reaching up high. Exhale. Inhale, spine lengthens. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, squeezing those shoulder blades together to a lifted halfway lift. Exhale, let's step back and we're going to come all the way down to our mat. So I'm going to turn my mat so maybe easier to see. As we come all the way down, we move into a cobra. So many options here. I'm going to cue this on the chair. So for cobra, if you're on your chair, or sitting in your chair, inhale, kind of lifting up, squeezing your shoulder blades together. It's almost like cow position, but you have the option here of lifting up your hands. So, inhale, spine lifts. Exhale, squeeze those shoulder blades together. Now, if you're on your mat, please come back down. You can turn your cheek the opposite way. One more breath in if you're seated. Exhale, release your hands. Let's do another cobra. Inhale, lifting up. Lead with your chest, your head follows. You're not leading with your neck. If you're in your chair, arms can come up. Moving with your breath, maybe squeeze those shoulder blades together. Slight tuck at that chin, perhaps. We just always want to protect that cervical spine. And release down. I'm going back to the mat. Hope it's not too confusing for you. We'll do one more here, and this is Sphinx pose. So Sphinx pose, you can either do a cobra, or for Sphinx, your arms come out in front, so your forearm is on the mat, and then your longer arm and your elbow is at a 90-degree angle. I personally like to press into the tops of my toes, a little stability there, and then breathing in, I lift with my chest. I'm not lifting with my neck or my head. Breathing here, noticing a stretch in my lumbar spine. You can regulate how deep you go, one of the benefits of this pose. Of course, as always, if there's any pain, please back off the pose. Two more breaths here. And then slowly, let's come back up onto our hands and our knees. Just do a few cat-cows here. Inhale, lifting up your chest area, tailbone. Exhale, round your spine. And one more here. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, rounding the spine. So, on the chair or on the floor or the mat, let's come to a seated position. Move to cobbler's pose. Feet come together. I'm using my block because, as I mentioned earlier, my hips are pretty tight. It's been that way for my entire life. So the soles of our feet come together as best you can. Doesn't have to be exact. Some of you might be able to reach down and grab the outer arch of your foot to your toes. Inhale, lengthening your spine. And it's good enough just to stay right here. You can certainly move forward here. Excuse me 1 second here. I'm going to show you the chair, how this works. So for chair, you simply take a block or two. If you can see me, I'll move back. I'm using 2 blocks here. My feet, soles of my feet come together. Hands come onto my outer parts or my knees. Inhale, I lengthen, and then exhale, start to come forward. Slowly come all the way back up and release. I'm going to move the blocks out of the way. So if you are on the floor of the mat, we're going to move to a supine spine twist. I'll stay in the chair. So if you're on your back, lengthening your left leg, bring your right knee in. If you're in the chair, the left leg roots in the mat, bending your right knee in. If you're seated, release that right knee. If you're on your mat, start to guide that right knee across your body. Both arms release to a T, or sort of like a T. Left leg stays long for a supine twist. If you're seated, arms come up high. And as we exhale, my right arm comes over towards my left side. Left arm comes behind me. Inhale, and then I twist. One more breath here. Inhale, come all the way back up. And let's release. If you're on your mat, you can switch that out. Bring your left knee in, right leg goes long. If you're seated, you can bend your left knee here. Give it a nice squeeze here. If you're seated, release your leg down. If you're on the mat, you can start to guide that left knee over towards your right side. Seated, arms up high. Left arm over towards that right side. Right arm comes behind. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale. Maybe a subtle movement here. One breath here, and then slowly come all the way back up. If you're on the mat, arms can reach long over your head. If you're in your chair, just reach up high and release your arms down by your side. If you're on the mat, you're welcome to give yourself one final squeeze, one nice hug. If you're seated, you can kind of bend one and the other. Either way, we're going to start to transition into a place of comfort for you, whether that's lying on the floor or your bed, or seated in a chair. So in a chair, you actually can start to move back, and you can keep the spine long to the extent you can, but you can also rest on the back. We'll take a few moments here. Allow that transition from our movement, which we call our asana, the physical part of our yoga practice, to rest, sometimes called shavasana, allowing our breathing to come back to normal, allowing the body to come back to rest. So we'll spend about 5 minutes here. You're certainly welcome to close your eyes. And if you were seated the whole practice and you want to lie down, you can do that. There's no rules here. It's a matter of finding a bit of comfort. So I'm going to read a short passage. We'll have a short moment of silence. And I'm going to ring a chime at the end, just to bring our awareness back into the room, the space we're sharing. So another one of my favorite instructors once said our yoga practice, our asana practice, is like a stew, meaning that we have all these different poses. We had eagle pose, we had airplane, we had cobra. All these poses are great in themselves, but we throw them all together into this pot and we simmer the pot, we stir it, we allow all the ingredients to work together. It makes something even more significant than the individual, the poses themselves. Perhaps consider the Shavasana, this rest, as that stew, where let your body take in all the wonderful things you did for it this morning. If we can do that without any kind of judgment or frustration about what we couldn't do as opposed to what our bodies allowed us to do, we can move into this attitude of gratitude, as we say. Awareness that the eyes are closed, or perhaps slightly open with a soft gaze. Empty your mind of tense thoughts and let it follow through your body into relaxation and calm. Allow your mind to become still. Quietly accept each thought and then release it. Breathing in comforting, healing energy. Breathe it into your mind, into each cell of your body. Breathe out stress, strain, discomfort, and fear. Don't resist what you are feeling or thinking. Accept it and release it. Just as water cannot pass naturally through a pinched hose, your vital life force cannot flow freely through you if you are cramped and tense. Honor the life force that is in you, that flows through you. Honor it by relaxing, opening to it, and inviting it to surge through your body. And if you'd like, you can start to bring your awareness back to your breathing. Perhaps as you start deepening your breath, feel the energy there to bring you back. You can support that with some subtle movements of your fingers and toes. Eyes can stay closed. Seated or lying on your mat, arms can come long over your head, a nice long stretch. Big body yawn here. Full release out. And if you are lying on your back, you can start to turn to one side or the other into a fetal type position. And if you feel ready, and only if you feel ready, you can pull yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Eyes can be open or closed. Hands can go anywhere you feel comfortable. Some people like to bring their hands to heart center, thumb knuckles onto their sternum, but that's just some people. For me, I do that because I just feel a sense of connection with my practice, but also with my body. Perhaps one final check-in, physically, emotionally, spiritually. If your eyes are closed, you're welcome to open up your eyes. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me to work through some of the technical challenges, but really just to share your presence and to share a community in an environment that we're struggling to